Warning, the following video contains violence towards children, such as self-inflicted abortion attempts, kidnapping, mental and physical abuse, murder and dismemberment, sexual acts on children including assault and human trafficking. Due to its violent nature, this episode is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Dark Mystery Podcast, where we give a little venom for the soul. I am your host, Vethy, and today I have a really cool guest with me. Introduce yourself, cool guest.
Hi, I'm Dawn, Yvette's bestie pestie. Hello.
Hey, bestie pestie. Woo-woo. Dawn, tell us about yourself.
I'm me. I've been following true crime ever since I was probably about 10 years old. Nothing seemed to faze me. Maybe this case for sure was one of them, but I do like to follow true crime.
Today, we will not be having a Twilight topic because this is a two-parter, just because there was so much information in this case that I didn't even know there was. And then after I did my research on this, more information came out that I did not know, that thankfully Dawn caught. So if it wasn't for you, I honestly wouldn't have this information. So yeah, this case is definitely, this one's a lot, in my opinion, or our opinion. As you guys saw in the beginning of the episode, please do not take that warning with a grain of salt. I'm sure a lot of people will sit here and be like, oh, that's not too bad. There's been worse cases. Yeah, true. Maybe there have been. But in this case, our opinion is this one because it happened in a time when, America was a lot more innocent and stuff. And then just the graphicness, it really, really broke my heart. And we actually kind of hesitated making this episode because it is a lot. So, Dawn, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're going to talk about today?
The Wineville chicken coop murders.
All right. So, if none of you ever heard of the Wineville chicken coop murders, so this happened in the late 1920s. A series of abductions and murders stained the small town of Wineville. The abductions were committed in both Riverside County and LA County. Due to the nature of the crimes, especially for the 1920s, Wineville made national news. Therefore, it was forced to change its name to what we now know as Wineville, California. The movie Changeling, starring Angelina Jolie and directed by Clint Eastwood, is actually based off the Wineville murders. There was even a mention of it in American Horror Story that featured this. It was in season 5, episode 4. It was very brief, but it kind of like hinted at it. So we're going to start with one of our key characters in this episode. So Dawn, why don't you go ahead and start it off?
We are going to start with Christine and Walter Collins. So if you guys haven't seen the movie, which to understand this case more, I would say definitely see it. So Christine Collins was born on December 14th, 1888 in Alameda County, California. Not much is known about Christine's upbringing, but we do know she was the fourth child out of 6. She met and married a man by the name of Walter Joseph Anson, but he went by the alias Conrad Joseph Collins. Why would you have an alias? Collins was born on February 1st, 1890 in Omaha, Nebraska. He had a pretty lengthy track record, which includes doing time for having committed robberies. He kept his past hidden from Christine for the most part. They had a son in September of 1918 and named him Walter. Collins had gotten into some trouble with the law again and was convicted on 8 counts of first-degree robbery charges in 1923. He was also sentenced to 40 years imprisonment, leaving Christine to raise their young son by herself. Collins later became an informant for the police. It said that Christine worked at a telephone company. She continued to live in Los Angeles with her son Walter after Collins' arrest. Pretty lengthy.
Right?
Okay. So from the movie, they painted Christine Collins as a very independent, very outspoken woman. Why would she marry someone like that?
Well, keep in mind, she didn't really know much about his past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even now, there a lot of people are saying that she was an independent, strong individual, and I mean, for everything that she went to, I would have to agree on that. You know, because she literally fought for justice, if you will, till her last dying breath. So I think what it was is it because he kept it from her for the most
Mhm.
part, and I'm sure she knew something. Because come on, how do you hide that? But then again,
Yeah.
this is the 1920s, so you know what I
No
mean. It's so
Google.
much easier to hide. Exactly. So it's a lot more easier to hide things and stuff like that. So she probably just didn't know about it.
This was
You know.
literally 100 years ago when he was
Hmm.
convicted for robbery. So, I
Yeah.
mean, 100 years ago, they barely had newspapers. Yes. But I mean, she was a good judge of character. I mean, we'll find out later why I said that. But for her to say she didn't know anything,
I think she knew something. Like she
she had
maybe
to know.
she had an idea, but she probably just didn't know the extent of it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, there's his story, her story, and the truth, which we will never know the truth because we weren't there.
exactly, exactly. And it's crazy how you said it was 100 years ago because it really just it's wow. You know, like
Yeah, yeah, and we're
wow.
still
Like I
talking
can't
about it.
believe. Yeah, and you know the crazy part about this, real quick, is that a lot of people they don't really know much about the Wineville chicken coop murders. I mean, there is plenty of people that know, but not as much as like for example like the Ted Bundy cases or like the Jeffrey Dahmers and things like that. And you would
It
think because of the
wasn't
movie,
national news because
e-
how could it have been? We didn't have media like we do today, or
well,
we didn't have media like we did in the 70s or 60s.
that's true, you know. So technically, it was national news because I mean
Yeah,
that's why a whole town had to change their name, but there it wasn't as big as this. And the fact that it did happen 100 years ago or almost 100 years ago, it's just it's crazy. But I do feel that it is important that we do cover this case. So let's continue on with Walter Collins.
okay, so Walter disappeared. Walter was the son of Christine and Walter Collins. One day in March of 1928, the now 9-year-old Walter had asked his mother Christine if he could go to the movies. She gave him money and he went on his way. Sadly, this was the last time he was seen. When Walter didn't come home, Christine went into a panic, ran around her neighborhood asking everyone and anyone that would listen if they had seen her son. One neighbor said they saw Walter standing outside the street corner around 5 p.m. She reported him missing, but the LAPD basically did what the LAPD did. Nothing, right? Nothing.
To
That's
this
LA.
day, till this
Nothing.
day, basically,
uh,
yeah.
they procrastinated and took their time because that's who they are. They figured it will be solved eventually by the family having to pay off a ransom of some sort.
Which
That's
honestly, I get it, but come on,
that's just
come on.
cops not wanting to do their job. Like, trust me, I'm all for police, I'm all for military. You know my thoughts on that. But in my time of doing criminal justice, learning about the LAPD, they do have a rap for a reason.
And they still do. That's the sad part about it. Not that I'm bashing on the LAPD or anything like that, but even like NYPD, they all have a reputation of being of corruption and whatnot. You
Well,
know,
look at
so
the robbery that happened in between. I think it happened in between. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. Around the time of Biggie and Tupac's murder, there
oh,
was
I
a
didn't even
big
know there was a
heist.
robbery. Oh, I didn't know that.
I learned that during my criminal justice classes. The
Oh shoot.
LAPD that was involved with the cases were involved with the heist. Woohoo.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Just saying.
Mm. Just
Okay.
saying. Not all of them are corrupt. There are good
Not
cops
yeah.
out there. There are good detectives. There are good prosecutors and everything, the judges, all that. But there's also
It's
bad ones. Unfortunately, all we hear is about the bad ones.
yeah, you never hear about the ones that saved someone's life that day, or you never see behind the scenes, which
Exactly. They don't get
So,
enough praise, in my opinion. So
yeah. Okay, back to what I was saying. The LAPD really didn't seem to care until weeks later when the LAPD picked up on this story and it finally got some national news. The people were demanding that the LAPD do more to solve the case and hopefully find Walter. Well, 3 months prior to Walter's disappearance, a 12-year-old girl named Marion Parker, who lived in the same area, went missing as well. Unfortunately, she was later found brutally murdered. Her case
which
was
is
never
not,
solved.
yeah, her case is not part of this one. Just so you guys know, there's no
Yeah,
confusion there.
there's not a connection. There's no proven connection. Obviously, the MO of the murderer has nothing to do with what happened to Walter. This was a female. The murderer chose males.
It just back then,
Unfortunately.
because back then, since she went missing 3 months prior to Walter Collins going missing, the people were getting a little nervous. They thought there may have been a connection, but there was never one made, and obviously, we will get
Yeah.
to why.
Her case was never solved, but because of this and Walter's disappearance, people started to worry. People started pushing the police to do more to find Walter. Reports came in left and right. Some were believable, some not so believable, which you get your people who want to think they know and don't really know. It's kind of like
Exactly.
another LA case, the Black Dahlia, which
Yeah,
that's another
which I
story.
will be covering.
Some reports in newspapers, another stated that he was seen near a gas station. Others stated he was seen in a car with a man and woman yelling for help. Police did look into as many leads as they could, but nothing came out of it. See, I think we need to know also is back then, they didn't have a lot of manpower. They didn't have resources that we do now, right? We have television, we have Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We have so many resources that we can get out. And if someone comes up missing, there's Amber Alerts all over the internet. Then
Exactly.
they didn't have that. It was word of mouth, maybe a radio program. I don't even think TVs were out then. It was basically radio programs.
They did have movies, but that's about it that I
Yeah,
know of.
it was just on like the big screen. From what I know of, it was just you go to the theater, you see a movie, but we didn't have like I don't think TVs were introduced until the 50s. So we kind of were stuck with the radio and word of mouth and oh, I saw this and you couldn't grab your phone and I got a picture, I'm going to put it out there.
Mm.
You couldn't do that. Having a camera
And
was even iffy.
I mean, there was cameras clearly back then, and there was
Yeah.
newspapers, but it wasn't as like it is now. Like I find it kind of sad how we allow social media to solve most of our cases now. I mean, obviously, some police, like the ones that actually do their job, they do solve the cases, whichever ones they can solve and stuff. But back then times were a lot different. There's
Yeah.
cases that are still not solved to this day. I mean, even case or like crimes that happen now, they're still not solved, but I'm talking this is 100 years ago, and there's cases even before then they have not been solved yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it just, the times were a lot different, and I'm sure you noticed that where it says police did look into as many leads as they could, put quotations, because they really did a piss poor job at it, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
They did about the same amount of work as my
No, it's
kids
like,
trying to find something. You tell them go
yeah,
look hey, go get the keys. Where are they at? I didn't see them.
exactly. Just look, literally, like
Yeah, yeah,
literally.
yeah,
I feel that if they would have definitely looked, they would have found him, or at least kind of had a lead to it. But we'll get
the
to that in a little bit. So
yeah, which will bring up what I want. I'm thinking of jurisdiction wise, if they would turn
true. That is
because
very true. that is a good point.
jurisdiction wise, usually precincts don't like to share, especially if it's national coverage. They want to get all the praise. This from personal what I've learned again through criminal justice is When it comes to jurisdiction, unless they don't want to handle it, you're not getting it. They don't like to
Yeah.
share.
And keep in mind, all this happened in Riverside County and LA County. So it's not like it's the same county.
Yeah, they're apart. And even then, it was probably even farther apart than it would have been going to
Exactly.
LA to Riverside today. It would have been back hills and
Oh, yeah. We're
craziness.
taking a lot longer to get there.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. So, 5 months after Walter's disappearance, there was a breakthrough on the case. A boy was found in Illinois claiming to be Walter. They said that the boy looked malnourished and like he had been out on the streets for a while. When asked who he was, he said he was Walter Collins. Excited, the LAPD informed Christine about finding Walter. I will leave what I have to say for a second.
Mm-hmm.
They kept him in Illinois for the time being because transporting him at the time would have cost a lot. In the meantime, Christine and Walter would write each other until Christine could save enough money to bring him home. You got to figure a train ticket then may have been $5, but that's close to 500 today. So
Basically,
was
yeah.
I could be wrong about prices. I'm just
Well, it could.
spitballing.
I think it was like 50,
50, you think?
maybe
Yeah, that
50,
sounds
give or take.
yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
And to
We weren't there.
make that, you had to make she was making maybe like 10 cents an hour.
Yeah, but the
Maybe.
cost of living back then wasn't as expensive as it is
Yeah,
today.
yeah. So traveling, something like that would have been really expensive. Pictures were sent by Walter though so she can confirm he was Walter. So there were pictures. She, from what she saw, yes. Finally, Christine was able to save the money to bring Walter home. When the day came that Walter would come home, the media had shown up because it was such a big story with a happy ending. Once Christine saw Walter, she didn't recognize the boy. She turned to the police and told them, "This is not my son." And well, the police officer in charge of the case, Captain J.J. Jones, was so desperate to solve the case, especially since the LAPD didn't have such a good rep at the time. Weren't we just saying
Yep. We literally just
that?
said that.
The LAPD had a bad reputation of police corruption, abuse of power, etc. The public started to look down on them, so to help make the police look good, he told Christine to try the boy out. Can you imagine being
He's
told,
not a car. You don't test drive a child. What the hell?
like, oh, that may not be your son, but try him out, see if it's a good fit? Like, no, I want my son. No. How dare
And
they?
did you see the pictures of the boy and Walter Collins?
There's no resemblance, nothing. He
I
was
don't see a
shorter.
resemblance.
And even in the movie, he was like 6 inches shorter than Walter
Yeah.
was. Like, they managed to convince her to some degree that the boy was in fact Walter. Basically, she did it just to kind of, maybe she was wrong. Maybe it is him and
Yeah.
she just, kids age. And I know my kid, well, Gianna, she looks how she looked, but Aaliyah doesn't look how she looked when she was 5.
That's true. Well, and
So
keep in mind, you guys, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but keep in mind, you guys, this was all 5 months after he had disappeared. So it's not like it happened within days or weeks or even, years. This was months. So it is kind of understandable because, kids do change, especially when they go through a growth spurt. If you're a parent, you understand that. So this was within 5 months, but there's just some inconsistencies there.
yeah. They explained to her he had been taken and had been through a lot, and that's why he looks and acts differently. Well, Christine had the boy for about 3 weeks, but there were so many inconsistencies. I mean, I don't. He was circumcised. Her son wasn't. That was big. I mean, I would know. That's something a mom knows. Like,
Right. There's explanations that like, oh yeah, he maybe something happened because I've had heard of males they were self circumcised through somehow. I'm not a guy, I'm not a male, so I wouldn't know. So it's really not
it
my place to
wouldn't
talk.
My thing is, if the circumcision happened while he was kidnapped, that wouldn't have healed. We have my son, it didn't heal in 5 months. It's like you get a cut, right? So you'll have
Mhm.
some type of scarring. You'll have something. You'll be able to see something that it was fresh, right? So obviously
Exactly.
she knew that. So there was that. She noticed his features were different, his behavior was different, and she was very adamant about the boy not being Walter. She was questioning if they even found her real son. The police did some testing to prove that he was Walter. One test was they brought Walter's dog in the room where the boy was. They said that if the dog goes to the boy, then it proves, in fact, that's Walter. My dog will go to anybody if they say his name. He doesn't care.
My dog will go to anybody, even if you don't say
Attention.
his name.
That's so dumb.
And see, and here's real quick. I get that back then technology and medicine and even like investigating and everything was different than it is now. I totally understand that, but common sense was not different back then. It is not. That's not proof, that just because a dog goes to a boy who, mind you, at this time he's been with him for 3 weeks, of course he's gonna go to him. Like that doesn't prove anything. That's just saying, like, well,
No.
if he farts and it smells like beans, then he clearly, that's him. It's like, no, no. And I'm not trying to make light of the subject. I'm just simply saying, it's
No,
like, no,
it's
you
just
know?
obvious. There's just, I mean, for instance, there was another test. They drove the boy out of town and said that if he can find his way home, then that would also prove it. So basically, let's drive him out of town and make him walk home. Let's put him in
Okay.
more danger. He got kidnapped, but let's see if he knows how to find. Mm. Okay, these are yeah. Let's do that.
With all this, with them all being so stupid, I'm surprised they are even corrupted. Like,
They're too dumb.
clearly, I mean, I'm sorry. And I'm talking about back then, at least, I'm not talking about the police here or
You would
anything
have had
now.
to have some intelligence, though, right? Like,
I mean, any person with common sense would have been like, dude, you are just desperate to sit there and say that this case will solve because they were so corrupt and everything. It's like you're only proving you are, in fact, corrupted, that you just do not care. You're literally just collecting a paycheck. You're only proving it right.
well, it
So
gets
do your
better.
job.
It gets
Oh,
better. So the boy, this new Walter, we'll call him New Walter, had been with Christine for 3 weeks by this time. By the time they had done the test, and she had adamantly claimed, "This is not my son. I don't know why you're giving him to me. He needs to be with his own family. He's not mine." No, he's just, we don't know who his family is. So just, we don't want to go
you
through that.
keep them.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to go through it. We don't want to figure all that out. Okay, so then she was still convinced that wasn't her son. She went and got proof. She took the boy to the dentist. His dentist basically confirmed that's not Walter.
Dental records. Yep. Dental
Yep.
records. You can't dismiss that. There's no way you can sit there and say, oh, yeah. It's like taking DNA tests and saying, oh, yeah, look, here's his test. Oh, no, you're wrong.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so they find a body, the fingerprints are gone. There's no way, they drained of blood, no way to get DNA. What do? Your teeth are your last resort. However, there are some people, sorry to get graphic, but this is a graphic program, they will pull their teeth out so they cannot be identified by even their teeth. And
Yep.
that is, they'll cut
Or any
fingertips.
tats, scars, beauty marks, anything like
Well,
that.
then they're screwed trying to hide my identity because I got them everywhere. My head. They have to burn.
Right?
They have to shave my head, burn it like obviously that's who that was.
Ooh, what would be a good one? And a hidden spot, like inside your lip. That would be a good
Mm-hmm.
spot. They don't know it's there.
With
So,
my
oh,
name.
yep.
With
Yep.
my name.
This mouth
My
belongs
name
to
is
Dawn.
Hello, my name is Dawn.
And I'm an alcoholic. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. She's
Shh,
not an
don't tell
alcoholic.
no one my business, okay? You don't know my life.
Yeah, you don't see what she sees. You don't know my life. You don't.
Okay,
Cheers. Let's get back to it.
let's get back to it. So after she went to the dentist and the dentist said, no, that's not Walter, she went back to the police to show him that. She demanded they reopen the case. The police captain, J.J. Jones, accused Christine of being a bad mother. Can you
We'd be
imagine?
fighting. We're like, I don't give a damn. You're a cop. We're
Be
fighting.
like, I'll get the
We're
foils
fighting.
and the sweatpants, girl.
Like,
Mm-mm.
we're fighting. You
Mm.
do not question or judge my parenting because you're a bad cop and you don't want to do your job. I'm telling you, you know.
So, they didn't look bad. They didn't want her to get rid of the son because if she proved to them and they proved to the world, oh, this isn't my kid and that we did wrong, they would have to go on record saying they did wrong. But she didn't want him anymore. She wanted her son. Any parent would. Like, it's one thing to adopt a child and to, try and, help them. But when you're given a child and you're told you have to take care of this child,
And that this is your son, in fact, and you're being a bad mother. I mean, deeper. They're only
exactly.
digging their grave deeper. And it's,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? It's like, come on, guys. Just, if they would have from the get go be like, you know what, let's run some tests, let's do this, let's do that, and then it turns out that it wasn't him or it was him, at least it showed that they did their part. You know what I mean? But no, they just wanted to look good and solve a case so the people could get off their backs.
Rug, sweep. Let's just put it under the rug,
Mm.
sweep it away, forget about it. Let's do that.
That's how
So,
it works.
because the media was heavily involved in the case, and since the public was already furious at the LAPD for the way they carelessly handled the case, Jones, the captain, knew that if it came out that he had found the wrong boy, it would make them look even worse than they already did. It's kind of hard. I mean, but sure. Okay. So, to protect the reputation of the police department, Jones had the power to send anyone he could and would, and that he deemed to be mentally incapable of life. He could just send them to the mental ward like that. Like, God. So he did just that to Christine. He sent her to the psychiatric ward and said she needed psychiatric help and sent her to the Los Angeles County Hospital under Code 12 internment, which I will describe what that is. Code 12 internment is a term used to jail or commit someone who is deemed difficult or an inconvenience. So it's not quite a 5150. It's just you're making too much trouble for us. So
Yeah. So we're gonna, like you said, sweep you under the rug and put you away, so we
and
don't
they
look bad.
told her, well, not they. Captain Jones told her she was too independent. And because she was too independent, something had to be wrong with her. Can you imagine us, like women today, we would all be deemed code 12 internment because we all have something to say. Every female I know, and every female I know, we're all the same way. We will tell you how it is whether or not you like it. And
And if we don't like verbally say it, our faces will definitely.
this
I'm just
proves my
saying.
guilt all the time. Even if I don't want to be guilty, like if my husband's like, "Did you spend money at Sephora?"
See my face? I didn't even realize I did it right now. That
And I'm like,
no,
"No, I don't."
no. Who shops there? Please.
Come on now. It was Ulta. Oh, I gave myself away.
Right.
um
Amazon
so
package, not mine.
you know what? It's what came to, I want to give away. It was a
Oh,
giveaway.
like it must be another Vetty here. Oh, who knew? Well, I mean, I don't want to be rude.
I might as well keep it because it does say my name. I mean,
Exactly. Exactly. It's like I didn't.
so continuing at the hospital, Christine endured so much abuse. I mean, the level and they sprayed her with water hoses, ice cold, to try and disinfect her. They made her. Oh, it was like one step below sexual assault is what they did to her to make sure she wasn't smuggling anything in. It wasn't like a regular drop and cough.
Like a exaggerated cavity search.
Yes, exactly. So it was a little bit more, all because the captain had told them, do what you need to. If she acts out, do what you need to. She was given medication that she knew she didn't need. So when you're given medication that you don't need, that can really mess with your mind. It can make you go insane. It
Yeah, oh
can
yeah.
do things. Meanwhile, they would interview Walter because they needed to know, this is Walter, new Walter. They needed to know what happened to him. During one of these interviews, the boy ended up confessing he was not Walter Collins. In fact, his real name was Arthur Hutchins. He was a 12-year-old boy. He was a
Dun
12-year
dun
old boy.
dun. Mind you, Walter was 9 at this time. He was 9. Okay.
That would be like them say giving you my son and saying, "No, this is Gabriel, but no, that's my friend's son." No, you
Right.
think it is, but it's not. This is your son. Like,
It's like the classic. What's that lane? Who are you gonna believe, me or your own 2 eyes? My eyes, because they're expensive.
yeah,
I paid good money for these glasses and contacts. I'm gonna believe my own eyes. Thank you very much.
yes. So he actually was a 12-year-old boy who ran away from his father's home in Iowa because he did not like his stepmother. So his stepmother was a stepmother, right?
Basically,
Like, so my kids have a stepfather and he's just like their father. He reprimands them, he tells them what they can and can't do. He is their dad.
right.
So Arthur did not like the way his stepmom treated him. He thought he should be treated some other type of way. So Arthur's mom had recently passed away and he was sent to live with his father. And he and his stepmother did not get along, which is the case in
A
many.
lot. It's many.
Yeah.
That's many people's cases, and I'm not saying it's okay or anything, but people just don't get along, and there's nothing really wrong with that. But when it gets to the point where like abuse and stuff is involved, or you just don't like the person, that's just like, okay, that's enough. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, but if you just don't like them and you're like over it, then the, okay, grow up, do what you need to do, move out, be responsible, and then you don't ever have to go back. But no, is that what Arthur did? No, that's not what he did. What he did was he left his house and had been out on the streets for a while before a man had approached him and asked if he was Walter Collins. So some stranger went up to him and was like, "Oh, are you Walter Collins?" And that was because he resembled him to, I guess, they were young boys. If anyone's seen the pictures, I don't know how he could have, but
I did not see a resemblance at all.
no. Other than the fact that he was a young boy on the streets, no one looking after him. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm. Maybe the guy needed glasses and didn't have them.
Right? And they were invented back then, so.
Yeah, little looking glasses. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Arthur was honest that time and he said no. Asking who Walter Collins was, the man told him that Walter was a young boy who went missing in LA and had still not been found. Arthur had taken this opportunity to get a trip to Hollywood. The reason he wanted to go to Hollywood was to meet his favorite actor, Tom Mix, which, if anyone knows who Tom Mix was, He was a pallbearer at Wyatt Earp's funeral, and he wept. Wept.
Which that's another episode we will be covering as well, because that's kind of our
Yes.
thing right
Yes. The end.
there.
At the end, they said, and Tom Mix wept. So that's who Tom Mix is. He was a Western star. So Christine, after 10 days of Arthur's confession, not 10 days of enduring the crap that she endures, 10 days after Arthur confessed he was not Walter, she was finally released. She sued the LAPD and won. The court granted her $10,800. She was never paid. They gave her nothing. Why? Because they saw her as a nuisance, and basically she was right, and heaven forbid. So they weren't going to pay someone that
Yeah,
disgraced them. That's
exactly. She fought that, like she would go back to court so the courts can force the captain to pay her, and he would be like, "No, I don't have to pay," and
yeah.
she never got paid. Never.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You sue somebody, you don't have to get paid, right? Like just because the judge says you do back then, especially, like we didn't have the resources again that we do today. And on that note, no, Walter Collins was never found. Christine Collins spent her entire life looking for her son. Her whole life. He was never found. Can you imagine looking for
I
your child your whole life, not knowing?
I honestly, that would just drive me insane. You know, just the whole experience itself. I probably would have to stay in that mental instant because I would just go insane, and I would be like just so angry and just want, like, I would be seeking out revenge left and right, to be honest with you, because like this is my
Yeah,
child, and then you lied to me, and then you forced me to take in this child, which, yeah, Arthur had his fault because he lied about it just so he can meet an actor, which is, let's keep it real, that's BS. I'm sorry, like, do seriously, you've gone through all that just so you can meet someone, which probably at the end he did not. Now, according
nope,
to the
he
research,
didn't.
exactly, but
No.
it's still, it is like you did all that for that. You helped put this woman through all that just because you wanted to meet one, and then shame on the captain and the police department for not doing what they were supposed to do and for not doing their job. And I'm talking about back then. Sorry, I'm talking about back then. You know what I mean? It's like shame on you guys for what you did just because you didn't want to look bad. You just look like an ass now. Like you
Yeah,
look
at this point,
worse. You look worse than an ass because you just were like, oh no, you were too proud to admit, hey, this kid, he lied to us. He lied to all of us. And if they would have came from, like, from the right from the beginning, when she's like, hey, it's not my son, it's like, oh, what do you mean? Let's do some testing. Oh, it's not? Okay, why would you say you are? That wouldn't look, it wouldn't make them look bad. It would make the kid look bad because he's the one
yeah,
that lied in the first place. But no, they wanted so desperately to solve this case and to look good. Now
they
you look
wanted
like
it done.
idiots.
They wanted the
Exactly.
case done. That's all it was. They didn't want.
They didn't want to deal with it anymore. They just wanted to look good and not do their job. It's like you're hired for a reason. The people are demanding something of you. You better listen because now the people don't trust you. To this day, 100 years later, the people still don't trust them. And not because
No,
of that particular case. It's like because you keep looking or making yourself look like an
there
ass.
there's a pattern, right? When somebody is being convicted, right? They don't go off of one person, sadly. It's a pattern, especially when it involves sexual abuse, child molestation.
Things of that nature.
Yeah, it has to be a pattern. If you cannot establish a pattern, then that person will walk. And that's the sad reality of it. It takes for a person for a this these are not exact statistic numbers, but this is what I was told. When it's a sexual predator, usually it can take up to 250 victims before they're
Yeah.
even found. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
is scary. That's 250 victims that they have to prove that this happened to them by this person, and things have to be detailed and exact. If not, and if somebody wants to go back on their word, then that just makes the case fall through. So
Exactly. It's sad.
it's
It's
it is
really sad, and that's where we will kind of leave Christine and Walter Collins right now for the time being, because there's still more to their part of this story. And we're going to go ahead and continue on with the Winslow brothers. So on May 16th, 1928, in the Pomona area, brothers Louis, 12 years old, and Nelson, 10 years old, Winslow, they had gone to a yacht club that their parents were a member of. They had like a kids club type thing,
mhm.
so they went there, and because their parents were members, they were obviously also members, and they could go learn and like build yachts, like small little yachts and stuff. So after they finished, the boys had headed home. Unfortunately, they never made it. Soon after, police got involved because their parents, they searched high and low for them, but they nothing came of it. After a few weeks, after a few weeks, Mr. and Mrs. Winslow, they received a letter from what could have been their boys. The letter stated, "Dear Mom and Dad, we are going to Mexico to make a lot of money making yachts and aeroplanes. A woman gave us something to eat. Don't worry, we will be okay. Louis and Nelson." Which honestly, right there as a mother, be like, yeah, no,
I
I'm
don't
calling
think
BS, but let's check
so.
the borders just in case. Yeah, I'm gonna call BS on that one, because it's like, yeah, no, something's not right. The family obviously was surprised, and they, because the boys never talked about going to Mexico, for like, they never mentioned anything like that or gave any indication that they wanted to run away or travel or anything like that. So a few weeks later, their parents received another letter, again presumably from the boys. In this letter, the boys stated that they wanted to be missing for as long as they could so they could become famous. Yeah, that's what the letter had said. Their parents didn't know what to think about this, but they still pushed the police to do everything in their power to find the boys. Unfortunately, they were never found. The police didn't make any connections between these two cases, Collins and the Winslow brothers. Even though the disappearance happened in LA County, they were still quite a distance away. Because mind you, the Winslow brothers were in Pomona, and Walter Collins was in LA, which is still LA County, but still, that's still like a good, what, 20, 30 minutes, and back then
Yeah.
it was probably where, because we didn't have freeways and stuff back then.
Yeah.
So there was no evidence to connect them either. So it was kind of like, all right, well, we have one missing kid here, and then we have two missing boys there and stuff. In September of the same year, the police were notified of an illegal child immigrant that was smuggled to California from Canada and was working in a chicken farm in Wineville, California. Now, before I get to that, I wanted to point out something a little bit. If you notice, with Christine Collins, she was a basically a single mother because her husband was a criminal. He was in jail for something he did, and the police kind of didn't take her much like serious, right? So we could assume that she was probably middle class or below that, all right? For the Winslow brothers, their parents were part of a club, like one of those fancy clubs, a yacht club. So clearly they had money, and yet the police were there doing everything in their power to help them. So it kind of just shows right there the
Status.
discrimination. Yeah, the discrimination status of a person, because this woman is a single mother. Her husband is a criminal. We're not going to really take her serious, because he was probably kidnapped, and then you have some parents who are wealthy and are pushing the issue, and it's like, oh, we got to help them. It's like, no, you got to give the same energy to both, because that just wasn't right. And look at what happened. The police, they look like asses at the end.
For
They still look
me,
like asses.
wouldn't it have been better for them to have thought, okay, these two boys being of a higher status, wouldn't there have been a higher chance for there to be a ransom for somebody with that kind of status
Exactly.
that's in a yacht club? And
Exactly. But I
like,
think what it sorry, I think what it was, because they wrote the letters, they were kind of like, well, it's not a ransom, it's more of a runaway, but something just did not add up right.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm saying. Like, because of the letters, the police should have been like, okay, well, I mean, they ran away. What do you want us to do about it? But because the parents kept pushing, because they were a wealthy
yeah.
family, they kept searching for the boys. But because Christine Collins was not a wealthy woman, they're like, oh yeah, no, sorry, he was kidnapped because your husband is an informant. So sorry,
Mhm.
he has enemies left and right. So it's like, no, you
Yes,
can't. Why? Okay, how are you going to assume one thing because of certain facts, which it was a fact, he was in jail and everything, he was an informant, but you're going to assume this happened with no actual evidence, and then you have evidence, and I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but I'm just saying you have evidence of the contrary, that that they ran away, but you're still going to go, and because they're rich. It's like, come on now. Come on now.
it's very disheartening and saddening that one case got more looked at more so. And if they would have back then, children weren't as apt to be in school, right? So
Yeah,
reading and writing, it wasn't like, and boy, now I don't know if every boy is, but there are some boys that have good penmanship. But my son, I could tell if it was my
nice.
son's right. My son writes like he's still in kindergarten. I love him to bits. He's my baby, but that boy cannot write. Like, I've watched him and I've helped him with his homework, and I'm like, write that better, please. So to be able to not be able to differentiate if someone's handwriting matches, or if they had the boys write it, which I think I did hear that the murderer did have the boys write it. You can tell if someone's stress writing, right? Because
Right, right.
but they
Like,
didn't care.
someone's, yeah, yeah, they didn't care and stuff. And that's the thing that, like, just pisses me off about the case. And we will go into further details on, the next episode. But it's heartbreaking knowing that these two, or three, if you will, because of the brothers, these three boys went missing, and one was put in more effort. Just, and I'm not saying it's just because the family was wealthy, but because the family pushed it and they were wealthy, the police did do more. But because this was a single mother who had a husband in jail, you know what I mean? So it's like, that it totally breaks my heart there. So we're gonna go ahead and end the episode right there. We will be posting part 2 next week, so you get the more information about what really happened and everything, because there's still a lot that we haven't not covered yet. We're really only covering the surface. So go ahead and like and follow, share this video. You can listen on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe. Let's get to 100, shall we? Let's meet our goal. Let's get to 100. Well, let us know what you think about this so far. Have you watched the movie Changeling with Angelina Jolie? If you have, tell us what you think about it and everything. If you haven't, we highly go and recommend it. But if you haven't watched it, there will be spoiler alerts. Go ahead and like and subscribe.
Okay.
Follow Dawn at her Twitch. Go ahead, let us know what your Twitch is.
You can find me at twitch.com/Dunderballs. That's with a Z. DUNDERBALLZ, where I will be playing Warcraft and some PS5. Maybe I'll even throw in some true crime and have Yvette as a spot guest.
Yay! Have you played Red Dead Redemption yet?
I have, but it was kind of boring. I like that Witcher. I like Witcher is like,
I have to
besides
play
being
that one. I haven't played it
super sexy. Mm,
yet. I haven't played it yet, so I will definitely have to check it out. So, but I'm just so busy right now. I don't even have time to play right now. So, but
Witcher,
yeah.
okay. I simped for Witcher even before Henry Cavill, right? But Henry Cavill's.
Mm. Hello.
How you doing? If you watch
How
this
you
anytime, say
doing?
hi. How you
Hey,
doing?
right? What are the odds? But hey, what are the odds? Hey, we're taking our shot. You can't blame us for
Shoot that
trying.
shot. I just
Shoot
did.
the shot.
My shot was a half shot because I'm married and he's with someone, and it was just a
But
little
still,
flirt, innocent flirt.
hey. So definitely go check her out on Twitch with her little with her little gaming and stuff. And then, like I said, like and subscribe and everything. Let us know what you think. And hopefully we get to see you on the next one, which Don will be joining us because obviously we're going to shoot this right afterwards. So we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.